Somebody help! As I fell into the sea and swallowed the salty water, I desperately called out, choking and gasping for air. The more frantically I tried to shout, the more seawater rushed into my mouth, making it impossible to breathe. As my consciousness started to blur, I reached out for my husband's help, only to be met with shocking words. "It would be better if you weren't around anymore. Sorry, but this is goodbye." Even as I was drowning, my husband ignored me and walked away. I don't remember anything that followed. When I came to, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Realizing I was conscious, a nurse called for a doctor. The doctor and nurse spoke in Spanish, which I couldn't understand at all. "Are you okay? You've woken up." Suddenly I heard English and realized that an unfamiliar woman was approaching me. "You're..." At that moment, I had no idea that this stranger would drastically change my life. This is the story of Gina, a 30-year-old woman. I'm a 30-year-old office worker who sells insurance. My workplace often demands overtime and working on holidays. I must prioritize my client schedules over my own, rushing to their side even after hours or on my days off. This rule was arbitrarily decided by the sales manager, but at least we were properly compensated for overtime. Thanks to this, when I was single, I could spend money on live performances of my favorite bands and games I wanted. During months when my expenses were high, I could voluntarily work overtime or on holidays to increase my income. However, after getting married, I began to feel that I couldn't continue living the same way. Last year, I met my husband, who is 3 years older than me, through a dating app, and we got married. We shared common tastes, which made our conversations lively, and we decided to marry after just 3 months. However, after marriage, differences in our values became starkly clear. Before, my husband was flexible and accommodating to my opinions and ideas. When I said I'd love pasta, he would find a restaurant that served delicious pasta and take me there. I love pasta too. He would proudly say this and even treat me to some homemade spaghetti aglio e olio at his place. He even treated me to his delicious cooking. But after marriage, our relationship became the opposite of what it had been when we were dating. "Dinner's not ready yet. I wanted you to have it prepared before I get home." Didn't I mention that before? Did you forget? Sorry, I had to work late today. I just got home too. My husband wouldn't do anything around the house. And if dinner wasn't ready by the time you came home, he would instantly become sullen. Always working overtime. Isn't that a toxic company? If you're too busy with household chores, why don't you just quit your job? He started to throw such insensitive remarks at me. There were times I blamed myself, wondering if it was my fault he had become this way. I even tried to finish work forcefully and reduce overtime to focus on housework. But as I managed to get home on time and perfectly handle the chores, his whims only grew worse. "You've been finishing work early lately?" he asked. "So why don't we meet at my office tomorrow and go out to eat for a change?" "Tomorrow? I can't just..." I hesitated, not wanting to upset him. "Is there something else? Do you have another errand?" Just showing reluctance to my husband's suggestion was enough to sour his face. "No, nothing in particular. So shall we meet at the station at 6 p.m. tomorrow?" I agreed, trying to keep the peace. "Oh, by the way, I just remembered I'll be finishing work at 4 p.m. tomorrow, so let's meet at the station at 5 p.m. instead." Every day I'm being pushed around by my self-centered husband. I try to respect his opinions as much as possible so as not to upset him, but still sometimes he throws aggressive words my way. "So, is this what I get for all the daily overtime and working on holidays? Just this small amount of salary?" I asked, feeling frustrated. "It's not even half of what I earn." He found the pay slip I had left on the table and pointed out how little my salary was. "My monthly salary may be modest, but I get a good bonus. Last winter's bonus was $5,000. $5,000, huh? That's nice," he said, almost sarcastically. "I only got $3,000. On the contrary, if my salary is higher than my husband's, that also becomes a cause for him to be upset. He doesn't have a driver's license, but I do, and I also own a car. That, too, is something he doesn't like. You commute by train, right? You only use the car for shopping?" he asked, trying to find something to criticize. He routinely complains about things like that. Before we got married, I thought to myself, I never would have imagined our relationship turning out like this. He must have been desperate to make a good impression. Right after we got married, I wondered if there was something wrong with me because of the sudden change in my husband. But at some point I realized that no matter how I approached him, my husband's attitude would not change. We've just passed our first year of marriage. When I'm with my husband, I find myself feeling irritable, without reason. I have a meeting tomorrow morning. Just having lunch won't be enough. I'll be hungry, so can you make me breakfast too? I'd like eggs Benedict. Breakfast, that's difficult. It's already tough making lunch in the morning. It's impossible. Maybe you could buy a pastry at the store on your way? When I respond irritably to my husband's request for a labor-intensive meal in the morning, sometimes he gets angry in return. You know, it's been decided since the old days that women do the housework. It's unreasonable that you, my wife, are refusing when I am asking. It's unbelievable to suggest that I should stop at the store and buy a pastry. Upset by my response, my husband left the remark hanging in the air and deliberately closed the bedroom door with a loud thud. Then on another day, regardless of the fact that I was at work, he made such a request. I finished work, but it looks like it's gonna rain hard. Can you come pick me up? Sorry, I'm on my way to a client's house right now, so I can't go there. I'm really sorry, but I can't right now. Please use a taxi or a bus. You're useless. What's the point of having a car and a license if you don't use it except for shopping? Sorry, but I'm on my way to a client's home right now. Let's talk about this when I get back. I ended the call forcefully and switched my smartphone to silent mode. When I checked it later, there were over 100 missed calls from my husband. That day when I returned home, we had an argument about the car and the license. Commuting by train can be troublesome with heavy rain, storms, or strong winds. You could at least drive me to the station. What's the point of having a car and a license if you can't even come to pick up your husband if you dislike train commuting? Why don't you get a license yourself? You have a license. That should be enough. Why should I have to go out and get a license when I'm tired from work? On another day, we had an argument about household and food expenses. We agreed to split the living expenses and food costs equally, didn't we? Yet this month your alcohol expenses have added up to $300 again. I would appreciate it if you could pay for your own drinks. We decided to split the living expenses right down the middle. Why are you changing the rules on your own halfway through? That's too arbitrary. Plus, I earn more than you do. Why can't I spend freely on my drinks? Although living and food expenses were to be split evenly, the husband's spending on alcohol was straining the household finances. Why do I have to pay for my husband's drinking expenses? No matter how reasonable I am, I end up being yelled at. If this life continues, I might even consider divorce. It was when I had such thoughts that my usually moody husband made an unexpected suggestion. Hey, how about we go on a trip to Cancun during the holiday next month? A trip to Cancun? Sure, but what's gotten into you all of a sudden wanting to go on a trip? We've been fighting a lot recently. I want to go back to Cancun, where we went on our honeymoon, and remember how we felt back then. At that moment, I was relieved by my husband's kindness. Indeed, we've been fighting a lot lately. A trip to Cancun could help us recapture the atmosphere of our honeymoon. Alright, it's decided then. I'll make the reservations. So if there's anything special you want to do, let me know later. And just like that, our trip to Cancun was smoothly decided upon. Although I had seriously considered divorce, I decided to see this as a chance to reset our marriage. We looked forward to enjoying luxurious dinners made with fresh local ingredients, followed by beers and wines in the hotel lounge. The next day, we woke up early and enjoyed swimming at the beautiful cobalt blue beach. My husband showed the same kindness he did during our honeymoon. That's right, I married him because I was attracted to his kindness and sincerity. I remember the time when we first met, hoping to turn over a new leaf and live in harmony as husband and wife from now on. Okay, look over there. There are people so far out. Let's go check it out. Looking in the direction he was pointing, I could see two figures in the distance, far offshore. If we go out there, it must be deep. We won't be able to touch the bottom. If you float, it doesn't matter if your feet can't touch. No, I can't swim. I can't even float in the water. Then suddenly he ran off and came back with a float. I'll swim out there pulling you, so you just stay on this. Saying this, he put me on the large float. At first I was a bit scared, but since my husband swam steadily and supported me, I was able to relax and enjoy the ride on the float. After a while, I even began to enjoy the scenery. Hey, it seems deep. Shall we head back? My suggestion was met with a mischievous smile from my husband. Dear, maybe it's a bit deep. Why don't you try swimming a bit? After saying that, he deliberately flipped over the float. The moment I fell into the sea, I was so surprised that I swallowed a lot of seawater. When I surfaced coughing and choking, I swallowed more water. My eyes hurt and I couldn't open them for a while. But when I finally managed to, I couldn't see my husband anywhere. Bert, where are you? Bert, help! I called out his name desperately, struggling not to drown. Then, from a few meters away, I'm over here. Swim over to me. Didn't I tell you I can't swim? I tried to raise my voice, but again, seawater flooded my mouth, and I couldn't make a sound. Ignoring my desperate struggles in the sea, my husband returned to the hotel alone. That's when I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was lying on a hospital bed. Realizing I was conscious, a nurse called for the doctor. The doctor and nurse were speaking in Spanish, but I couldn't understand a thing. Are you okay? You've woken up, the nurse asked with concern. Suddenly I realized English was entering my ears, and at the same time, an unfamiliar woman approached me. Excuse me, who are you? I asked. I'm Jasmine, she replied. I was patrolling on a jet ski when I spotted you drowning. It really shocked me. She introduced herself as Jasmine, an American resident in Cancun. Jasmine runs an import company dealing with the export and import of fashion accessories between Mexico and the US. A close friend of Jasmine patrols every year during the swimming season to check for anyone drowning or causing trouble. That day, on her day off, Jasmine was accompanying her friend on patrol and happened to find me drowning and pulled me out of the water. I had swallowed a lot of seawater and my lungs were inflamed. Afterward, I ended up being hospitalized at my travel destination. Did you come to Cancun alone? Where is your partner? You should contact him quickly, Jasmine asked with concern. I came with my husband, I replied. Gina, why are you crying? Where is your husband? The memories of the incident at sea came flooding back and tears spilled out. Then I told Jasmine everything that had happened at sea. That's terrible. I feel so sorry for you, but you're safe now. Jasmine hugged me tightly and comforted me. In her busy schedule, she helped me with the hospital admission procedures. Luckily, my important belongings were left in a locker on the beach. She also stopped by the hotel to check on my husband's status, but he had already checked out and seemed to have returned home. Really, thank you so much. I don't know what would have happened to me without Jasmine. Now is not the time for thanks. You need to rest. Following her advice, I decided to stay in the hospital for a while. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital in Cancun and arranged a new flight ticket to return home. I thanked Jasmine many times. I will definitely repay you later. Don't worry about thanking me. I'm just happy that you've recovered. But I can't just accept your help and not return the favor. I asked for Jasmine's address in Cancun and decided to send a Christmas gift from the US as a token of my gratitude. Later, I intended to visit Cancun and thank her properly. However, before that, in the US, there were several things I had to attend to. I decided to tell my in-laws about what happened during the trip and to decide on divorcing my husband. Then, I consulted a lawyer and decided to claim alimony from my husband. Got it? Claim the alimony firmly and get as much as you can. I remembered Jasmine's words and face as fiery as if it was her own business. Upon returning to the US, my teary parents welcomed me home. Gina, welcome back. I'm so glad you're safe. To be dropped from the float in the sea and left alone, you did well to come back. That's right. I feel like beating the crap out of that bastard, but he's in detention now. Detention? Wait, why haven't I even told you that? Then my father explained the police contacted us. He is currently being detained. Gina, if you wish, would you like to visit him? What will you do? Without knowing the reason my husband was in detention, I decided to head to the police station. It's your fault I got fired from the company and ended up in this place. I'll never forgive you for the rest of my life. Remember this." My husband's words trembled with anger, left me feeling nothing anymore. From what I heard about my husband, Jasmine was supposed to have dealings with the company where my husband worked. My husband worked for an American trading company, and Jasmine's company, which was actually a famous brand, was likely to finalize a new contract involving the import and export of clothing and cosmetics. It seemed that for my husband's trading company, Jasmine's company was set to become their largest client to date. Later, it was discovered that the day after he left me to drown at sea, he had visited Jasmine's company for negotiations. Although Jasmine never met with my husband, the business card shown to her by one of her employees matched the name she had heard when she went to the hotel we were staying at to check on my husband. Moreover, Jasmine's friend had installed surveillance cameras on the beach. The footage clearly showed my husband returning alone to the shore after seeing me drowning in the sea. This video became evidence, and my parents began proceedings to sue my husband. I arranged for Jasmine and my parents to talk through a messaging app for the procedures of hospital admission, unaware that it would also serve to address the aftermath of my husband's actions. Damn it! If you hadn't gotten in the way, I might have been able to seal the deal and return to the US safely, possibly even get a promotion, despite my husband's tears of frustration. I retorted with harsh words after he left me, who can't swim, in the sea and almost killed me. "You talk about a promotion? Unbelievable. Criminal. Shut up. You're always so arrogant talking back to me. That's why I didn't want to be with you. Amy is more compassionate, kind, and fun to be with. You were in the way of me being with Amy." My parents' expressions changed instantly at my husband's words, and anger surged. "Are you serious in saying that you tried to kill my daughter to be with your mistress? Gina, it's good that you can divorce such a man. We can claim additional compensation for all of his cruel tricks. There's no need to be upset over such a despicable man. Life should be thought of in a fun and positive way." With anger, my father and mother began to scold my husband. Comforted by my mother's words, I decided to claim additional compensation for the incident at sea and the affair. I was told that this is what my husband had stated during his police interrogation. He's quick-tempered, so I started having an affair with a junior at work. She was in the way of my plans to remarry. My husband clearly had malicious intent, and there'd even been a murder plan in place. As a result, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for attempted murder. Later, I received compensation from my husband and revisited Cancun with my parents. I expressed my deep gratitude to Jasmine with tears. I was lucky not to deal with a company that harbors a criminal. Jasmine said this, entertaining my family. Thanks to Jasmine, my family could enjoy our trip. Since then, I have cut ties with my husband and am grateful for having met such a wonderful friend in Cancun. Jasmine and I visit each other's countries every 3 months, deepening our friendship. We want to nurture our friendship while enjoying delicious food and beautiful scenery, creating new memories.